Sometimes it feels like my brain has a lot of things to hold and no pockets. I think for women who have a brain like this, it's like doubly frustrating. You already don't have clothes with functional pockets, and then you gotta deal with your brain having no pockets too. That's just double frustrating. So go to the store, buy some men's pants, because adjusting your brain to have more pockets is a lot more difficult, if not impossible. Hello BabyQueers and welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing some neurodivergent memes again. I'm gotta be honest right now, it's mostly autism memes. But that's what I collected this time. But anyways, you know the deal. Before we continue, y'all gotta get hydrated. So grab some water, or some tea, whatever else you like to drink, and then we'll continue. Do you have your drink? Okay, let's go. My 2 rules are: never tell me what to do, and please help me. But do it in a way that is actually helpful. Like, if your idea of helping me is just, oh, I know you can do it. Come on, you're so smart. I know you can do it. Like, you'll figure it out. Or trying to micromanage, then it's not actually helpful. Which is where the don't tell me what to do comes in. So being able to abide by both of these rules is seemingly really difficult for people. Which just makes you appreciate the people who are able to follow these 2 rules. Like, it makes you a lot more grateful for those kind of people. I love being outside, just not when it's too cold, or too hot, or too wet, or too windy, or if there are any bugs. So basically, you think it might be okay to go outside, and then you go outside and encounter one of these problems, and suddenly you regret all your day's choices. Like, what made you decide to go outside? Like, wind, as long as I have short hair, is like okay-ish. Like, if you have long hair, it's so much worse somehow, because no matter how well you think you tied your hair, there's still suddenly hair flying in your face. Or insects fly into your face a whole lot more just because it's windy. If the insects stay far away from you, it's fine. But insects usually insist on flying into our faces or into our hair or way too close to our ears. So, finding the right moment to go outside, or like enjoying being outside, I guess, is potentially not that easy. ADHD is misjudging the doorway and shoulder checking the wall like it came out of nowhere. Because it came out of nowhere. Like, I don't know what to tell you, but the wall wasn't there before. And it's so hilarious because we do the ADHD walk, right? Where we just like dodge tables and go around things, and it works like maybe, depending on the day, between like 90 and 99% of the time. But then suddenly the wall comes out of nowhere, even though you probably already dodged it like 5 times that day, right? But suddenly it comes out of nowhere. So I'm very convinced the walls move, because how is it that it works most of the time? But then sometimes you just bump into it. Like, not even if it's like half dark. It can be like brightest of bright. Maybe not that bright, because then you can't see anymore because it's too bright. But like, if it can be like normally bright. And I will shoulder check doorways like they came out of nowhere. Or door handles. But it's never when it's dark, right? Or when it's like half dark. It never happens then. So why do the walls only move when it's bright? This painting is titled, "Would it hurt you to put the dirty bowl in the dishwasher?" I would, but I haven't emptied the clean dishes out of it. So, And I could blame it on my dishwasher, because a dishwasher is not that cool, and sometimes it just like doesn't clean certain dishes. And I could blame it on that because it makes me want to empty the dishwasher even less. Like, I want to empty it, but it just seems like more to deal with because then I need to check every individual dish if it's actually clean, so I could blame it on that. But I am also very aware that even if it worked perfectly, if dirty dishes happened like once or twice a year, because they're just too dirty, I would still run into this very problem. So, I could blame it on that. But also, if someone were to put this painting in my kitchen, I would knock the person out with this painting. Because now I'm not going to do it. Now I'm going to put it on the kitchen table. How about that? A 300-year-old library tool that enabled the researcher to have 7 books open at once, yet conveniently nearby. Having too many tabs open is an age-old problem. It is, right? Because it's just practical. It's just practical. Do you know where any of your tabs are? No. But you can bet that someone spanned this around like 3 times until they found the right book, because they keep scrolling or turning past that book because they were like, no, that's not it. But then it is exactly that book. Do I know where any of my tabs are? No. Does it make sense that I have like 10 YouTube tabs open, then a Netflix tab, and then like 3 or 4 more YouTube tabs? Also no, but I don't want to change it. It used to have a point, but it lost its point, but I still don't want to change it because that's just the way it is now. So do I misuse it widely? Absolutely. But I see why someone created this. Because humans change, but we don't really change. We just don't. What are your plans for the weekend? Oh, sorry, I'm busy. Kittens in 3D are much more important. But literally, if someone is honest with me and says, oh yeah, this is my plan, I actually respect the hell out of it. Like, if you're just dodgy and not saying anything, like, of course you don't need to explain yourself to people, but it's like, it's fine. But if someone says, oh yeah, I can't because I have plans that involve 3D kitten books, I'm gonna respect the hell out of that. I'm just gonna be honest right here, that seems like really important plans. All of the sensory input I'm processing versus my ability to handle it all. Depending on the day, it might also be a little bit thicker, but yeah, chances are it's more like a toothpick sometimes. And depending on a lot of factors, it might get thinner or thicker because, yeah, if you're already like in an environment that is not environmentally friendly, and then this person comes along that you find annoying, or just someone who just chats your ear off about something that you really don't have the energy for at that moment, that it's just, you could just like actively feel it getting thinner, and you can start to feel the whole thing like shaking, and you're trying to figure out how to get out of that situation. At least I try to get out of it in a polite way, which, let me tell you, does not work. It does not work. Like it really helps if you're around people where you can just be like, okay, me need quiet time, leave me alone right now, and it's like fine and they get it. But like, especially around coworkers or something, you can't unfortunately do that. So still trying to figure out a way to politely get out of it, like getting thinner than this, because this is already not working well, but trying to politely prevent it from getting even thinner is maybe difficult. Welcome. Today's specials are lack of sleep, up too early, and low patience. Thank you, come again. It will definitely come again. You don't need to invite these specials again. And I'm not sure you want to actually invite people to join you in this again, because it just does not seem ideal, but yeah, it will definitely happen again. You know, you will get these exact same specials, which I'm not sure could even still be classified as specials anymore. At least 3 times a week, probably. My friend who just bought me some chips. My autistic ass. Thank you. I'll never forget this. I would kill for you. You know, I used to see it as like, why are we being so dramatic about things? But it's actually really wholesome if you think about it. You know, not that killing is ever that wholesome, but just like feeling that deeply about like seemingly mundane things is actually really beautiful. Is it inconvenient at times? Absolutely. Are people gonna understand it? Probably not. Depends on the people. But I do think it's actually very beautiful that we're able to feel this deeply about, like, really, actually, like, mundane things, but just, like, suddenly becoming really aware how much you care for someone and how much this other person cares for you is a little bit overwhelming sometimes. So, I think we've all been this little cheater at one point or the other. I just got laughed at during a meeting for raising my hand to ask a question. Sorry for being polite and applying a technique that was forced on me for 12 years. Society, follow rules. Also society, not that one, you idiot. But literally why? Like, honestly, like, depending on the size of the meeting, it might not be necessary. But I feel like if it's like more than 10 people, probably, wouldn't it be helpful? You know, because otherwise this thing happens where like 2 or 3 people start talking at once and it's just awkward for everyone involved because they're just like, oh, no, you go first. Oh, no, you go first. Wouldn't raising your hand just generally make more sense? You know, like, I really enjoy I hate Teams meetings, but I really enjoy the fact that the, like, hand-raising emojis are numbered, so you can, like, see who raised their hand first, and just go in order. That's practical. That might be the only thing I enjoy about Teams meetings, actually, but I have a difficult relationship to meetings in general, because my attention span in meetings is incredible, of course. Sea creature chicken nuggets. Breaded shaped white meat chicken patties. Okay, things just got real, okay? I don't actually eat meat. I would want these as plant-based nuggies, but how fast did these sell out? Because, like, dino nuggies are already selling out fairly regularly, or, like, at least they have pretty high demand, but these, I think they're actually gonna sell out really quickly. How to be happy. Stop having thoughts. I mean, it would work. You know, that's the thing about WikiHow articles. Like, it technically works, right? It's just, this step seems about as helpful as a lot of tips people give you of like, oh yeah, just use a planner. Just go outside more. You know, like, all the helpful things people love saying to people who have depression or who say they have ADHD and that's why they forgot to do something, because that's why they forgot to do something. And people just like pulling random excuses. This is about as helpful, because yeah, if you stop having thoughts, you would probably be happier. For a while, at least. You know, if you could just like actually actively just really turn it off. But unfortunately, that's not how any of this works. I'm an overly emotional, unemotional, clingy, but distant private person who likes to overshare at any moment, and I'm trying to figure out how that works. Are you new here? Okay, well, welcome to the world of ADHD. You know, to this day, I don't know if I dreamt it or not. Maybe I probably dreamt it, that I was supposed to be a twin but absorbed my twin in the womb. I know that can happen, but I'm pretty sure I dreamt it. But I used to think that I was meant to be a twin, and that's why I'm so contradictory. Which, you know, seemed like a plausible explanation at the time. Before I figured out I'm ADHD. like a lot of things, I'm just like, why the hell did I think that? Like, why did I not realize certain things sooner? But to this day, I kind of hold to that. Like, I can definitely see how young me thought that, because I wasn't taught about ADHD or autism, because I love having a family who's in denial about a lot of things, So it seemed like a really plausible explanation at the time. Headache, stomach ache. It isn't as big an issue as you make it out to be. Yeah, like I said, having big emotions about seemingly random or mundane things, in other words, things that other people classify as random or mundane, is not gonna be understood by everyone. But if they're, like, I know it makes you feel bad, but if you're out here making other people feel bad just because something isn't dramatic for you, then you're just not a good person, even though you think you are, Like, just don't. Like, of course we all have different things that seem like issues to us, or that are more problematic for us than they are for others. If you're disabled, obviously there are gonna be more things like that, than between two neurotypical people who just like care about different things, right? But telling literal disabled people that, oh yeah, you're just being dramatic about it, you just need to try harder, is incredibly shitty and dismissive. So this chart, pretty accurate. Learning how to drive. Lots of rules and guidelines to follow. Barely anyone actually follows those rules. Yeah, barely anyone actually follows those rules. At least sometimes. Like, there are people who will cut in front of you at the most random moments. Obviously not everyone. But it's always in the worst moments. And it's always rude. Like, just why? Can you really be in that much of a hurry that you have to disregard the rules that are there for everyone's safety? When you see someone you know in public, hide behind the next potted plant. I guess. But honestly, for a while there, I was glad that I transitioned, because I'm trans. Like, I transitioned after high school. And I was really glad, because then if I ran into people from high school, they didn't recognize me, or at least not right away. It was probably one of those, if they saw me, they were like, wait, this person seemed familiar, but they wouldn't immediately place it, so I could just like run away and be far away by the time they realized who I am, So that was practical. But yeah, now if I see people, I don't look at people, which is also an issue, because people look at me and I still run the risk of people talking to me. My family watching a movie. Me explaining where we've seen each actor before. It is an important job, I watched Dracula Untold with my roommate last night and literally put my phone down, grabbed my phone again to look up the next actor, because I was like, this dude's voice seems really familiar. Like, what's his name? Like, I knew where I knew him from, but I didn't remember his name, so I had to look him up through the movie so I could like tell my roommate what other movies or series he was in. And then I put it down and I was like, wait, but no, this other character also seems familiar. So I'm impressed if you can do this like out of your mind. My top page visit while watching a movie is probably like I always forget what it's called, BM, whatever, that page, you know what I'm talking about. I visited too much, probably. Realizing people instinctively understand social cues and empathy and didn't need to study people for years to learn. I think a lot of us maybe actually knew this, because we always had people our age that seemed better at it than we are. So we kind of knew. But if you're like me, you probably also just assumed that their parents just taught them better than my parents did, or that they had older siblings, or like other friends who with parents who taught them and stuff like that. And it didn't really fully click that it was instinctive for other people. That's true. Yeah, like we could have known, right? We really could have, but for a lot of us, it didn't fully click, I think. My brain trying to decide whether to reach out to people or never talk to anyone again. You know, for me, it's not so much of a trying to decide. Like, either I really just don't want to talk to someone and then I just really won't. Or it's a constant cycle of, oh, I really need to text this person again. I really need to check up on this person again. And then getting distracted with like random other things, really. The amount of times I've picked up my phone because I was like, oh no, I need to text this person again. Like I haven't spoken to her in a while. And then I text my phone, I pick my phone up to text this person. And I see a notification from my emails or something, and I open that, or from Instagram, or I open Instagram to text this person or whatever, and then I just see other messages or watch stories, and then I put my phone down, and it's been 2 hours and I haven't texted this person. On an endless circle. So if I haven't texted you in a while, I probably meant to about 100 different times. I'm sorry. Autism doesn't run in our family. Meanwhile, don't touch a single strawberry on Grand Aunt Norma's fridge because she will know. I would absolutely hate this fridge because even if I would know, I would accidentally bump into one of these strawberries and move it and then struggle to put it back right in place where I want it. So I would already not want this fridge, but yeah, no, sure. I mean, we know by now that it is very hereditary. And once you do know that, you can't help but look at your family differently because you start seeing the signs in family members. And it's hilarious because you can't tell your like 80 or 90-year-old grandparents because, you know, it doesn't make a difference for them anymore, really. And you don't know how to bring it up, but you can see it's there. We're not allowed to put things in our grandma's dishwasher or her fridge because it will be different than she puts it in. Do you know how much of a drama it was that my grandparents had to get a new fridge like 2 years back? Because their old one broke, and the new one is basically the same size, but it's like maybe a little bit wider and a little bit shorter. It was a problem, okay? It was really a problem. But I kind of feel that, but it was definitely a problem. But no, it doesn't run in our family or this person's family. No. People think autism spectrum is like this, low functioning to high functioning. But it's not, it's more like this. Non-verbal, stimming, eye contact, special interests, literal-minded, fearless, sensory overload, routines, solitary, social cues. I've also seen like a circle, but this also seems fair. You know, like you can put these in a circle, like in a pie chart, and have like different things go out different ways, right? From like not at all. But this might also work better because like for a thing like sensory sensitivity, for example, some people are really like hypersensitive and some people are really hypo, like really undersensitive. So this kind of way of showing it actually also probably makes a lot of sense. And I think some people started to like fill it out and post it back to the autism meme subreddit to like show where they fall in each category, which also I thought it was kind of a fun idea. How do you know what love feels like when you're autistic? I've always been kind of weird about timing. If someone says they'll be there around 6, my brain spirals. 6 turns into 6:07, which turns into full-blown panic that something went wrong or they forgot. When I first started seeing my girlfriend, I braced myself for the usual stress. But instead, she'd say things like, I'll be at the station at 6:03. If the train's delayed, I'll text. If it rains, I'll wait by the coffee stand inside. One day, I asked why she gave me so much detail. She just said, because I know it helps you feel safe. Honestly, the feeling in that moment, that was pure love. But honestly, people who do this, like, Because I always do this. Like, is it dramatic if instead of leaving at 10:30, we leave at like 10:33? No. But the amount of stress I feel, like, literally, I've tried battling it for years, like, tried, like, calming myself down because logically I know it doesn't matter. But yeah, I kind of gotten used to the fact that I will never not feel as strongly about it. So now when I say, oh yeah, we'll leave at like 5:50, so we'll be at your place by 6. Even if I know or like start to realize that we'll be a little bit late, I will text the other person just like, we're gonna be late, because I know how I feel about it. Do other people feel strongly about it? No. Would other people care? Maybe not. But I'm kind of this person. But yeah, if you are friends or like in a relationship with people like this, giving this much information, very useful. Because then if you say, oh, I'll like get going now, or just like, if someone's like, well, maybe around 6, but I'll just text you when I leave, it's also fine, because I was like, well, sort of around 6, but then they text you when they leave, so you can kind of know when they're there. That's fine, because then I won't have to spiral as much. And apart from that, I've always just been a fan of people who are early. I'd literally rather someone come 5 minutes too early than 5 minutes too late, because otherwise this happens, the spiraling. Anyways, that was all the memes I have for today. I think this was kind of a fun collection, because it was mostly autism. Maybe because I'm ADHD, I'm also able to talk about that a lot, because honestly sometimes I can't pick apart what I do because of my autism or because of ADHD, because honestly it's just sometimes really just impossible and like too closely intertwined. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the memes. I hope you feel a little bit called out, because I always do, and I'll see you in a few days with my next video.